Bold faith, real truth, no apologies. Stand your ground, say what you see. Elsa and Clay bring the truth out loud. No backing down, no bowing out. Turn it up, let freedom roll. This is the Elsa Kurt Show.
Well, hello, my friends. As you can see, I'm sitting here all by myself. This is a sad, sad, scary moment for me. I'm so used to having Clay right on one side of the screen next to me here, and he was unable to join me this week. He had something come up, so I'm all by myself. It's very tragic. Thankfully, he left me some topics to talk about so that I didn't have to do the work of looking for them. So I'm going to talk about the things that we had planned to talk about together. I'm going to do it all by my lonesome. I guess, ironically, not coincidentally, I guess, because I don't believe in coincidence. Last week, I was asked to fill in for a radio station host, James Parker, out of Dallas. And even though I was terrified to do this, because I've done like just a smidge of radio. But usually I'm just a guest. Like, I don't do any of the heavy lifting. I just sit there and answer some questions and attempt to be witty and charming. Maybe a lot of times I fail. I don't know. But that's been the extent for the most part. So when he said, hey, can you fill in for me on Thursday and Friday of, last week? I said right away, like a lunatic. I said, sure, no problem. What? What do you mean no problem? Of course it's a problem. You don't do radio. You do this. You edit. You script. I don't know. You have complete control over every aspect of what you do. Like, if you don't know already, which you probably could figure all on your own without having any experience in this, podcasting and radio are two completely different animals. Like, they are just day and night, nothing alike, except that you are broadcasting to hopefully a lot of people. The significant difference here is that I have complete control over all of this. I can edit out something if I mess up, if I make a mistake, if I don't like something, I can just crop it out and make it gone, just make it disappear. Radio is live. You don't have that option. And one of the things that you cannot ever have is dead air. Like, you need to be on the ball and you need to be quick. And if something happens, and by the way, something always happens. For example, one of the days last week, we were supposed to have a guest come on, and I had my questions prepared. I was all ready for this. What I was not thinking about, I did think about it. I knew that this was a possibility. But if the guest, loses reception or whatever, if they're just not there for whatever reason, well, guess what? Of course that happened. The guest that was supposed to be on, they, I don't know, they lost connection or something, and there was nobody on the line. So I did the, hey, so-and-so, you're on the air on WBAP, blah, 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 and nothing. And I'm like, hey, so-and-so, you there? Okay, looks like we lost him. What do you do? What do you do? Well, you start talking. You start filling in that space. And I went on autopilot. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what I said. I will not listen to the, of course, they were kind enough to send me the replay of it and everything, the audio recording of it. I won't listen to it. I can't do that to myself. I can't. I will never do it again if the opportunity arises. Can I be honest with you? I don't know if I ever want to do it again. And it's not that it went badly. They were wonderful over there. They held my hand virtually. They guided me through as much as they possibly could. But once you're on air, it's on you. Like, you better step up. And I don't know if everybody was complimentary. Everybody was very kind. I mean, what are they going to say? You suck. Get out of here. They're not like that. And maybe they were thinking it. I don't know. Hopefully I never know if they were thinking that. But we made it through. I made it through. I survived. But I don't like not having control. my husband laughs at me when I told him this. He's like, and this surprises you? Like, why are you sounding surprised that, you didn't like not having control of the situation? So yeah, a lot of good things came from it. Number one was that it's always a big deal personally, like for yourself, for myself, for yourself, when you do similar things, not necessarily identical things, but doing things outside of your safety zone, right? That's what I'm referring to. It's always an amazing thing when you do it. It doesn't mean that you necessarily did it well or perfect or great, but you did it despite the fear. You did the thing that you were afraid of. And that is a really good, pat on the shoulder for yourself that you get to have. So I got to have the pat on my shoulder for myself that I did something that terrified me. I'll be honest with you. Again, I hate confessing these things because they're forever. I did not want to do the second day. I did not want to do it. I wanted to back out of it. I was so I was so traumatized by the first day, by not feeling like I did my best, by not feeling I just muddled in my head with the whole thing. By the way, it was 3 hours, 3 hours of radio. It wasn't just like an hour. It was 3 hours of like trying to remember to hit these marks, to talk about these topics, to take the phone calls, to do all of the things, all for the essentially first time. So yeah, yes, I want sympathy. I want girls from you guys. I'm not shy. I'm going to tell you. I want you to tell me that I did a good job, that you're so proud of me. I'll do all of the things, people. But yeah, the second day, I was looking for excuses to get out of it, and I spoke to two people about it. I spoke to my stepmom and my husband, and they both emphatically, without any hesitation, said, "You committed. You're doing it. Suck it up, Buttercup. You are doing it. You cannot back out of your commitment. You said you would do something, and you must do it." They did not give me the response and answer that I wanted to hear. Obviously, they were 100% correct that I committed. I said yes. I needed to do the thing that I said I was going to do, even though I didn't want to. And I stomped my feet and I pouted and I whined. I didn't cry. I didn't cry about it. But I did not want to do it. And I have like this whole new appreciation and respect for radio show hosts, who's particularly talk radio, for all of them, of course, but especially for talk radio, when you are like, you should see, I'm not going to give it to you, but you should see the breakdown. Like, it tells you the time slots of everything. It's like the first 10 seconds this, then the next 15 seconds that, and then you have, 7 minutes and 50 seconds of airtime that you're talking, and you got to do this and it is way more overwhelming, at least initially, than podcasting. So yeah, that's my whole story. That is my drama. So this is actually so much more relaxing for me, even though I am a little traumatized. And I know I'm using a term that is really not the right one for it. Like, that's such an exaggeration. But let me, okay? I'm traumatized to not have Clay next to me, to have my co-host next to me. We've been doing this together for I think it's 3 years now. I think we're in our third year, or going into our third year. And you do get very, very dependent on that dynamic. So yes, Clay, if you're watching, I definitely miss having you beside me. I have a new appreciation for you doing this solo when I randomly pop out for, usually, obviously, it's to visit the grandbabies. But yeah, lots of appreciation, lots of gratitude going on around here. And now we're going to go right into the topic. So I'm going to listen. I'm going to do the best that I can. We're talking about bleachers to barbed wire, one knife, two lives, and a culture that failed them both. Listen, obviously, this is a case, the Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf case incident. That has been, conversation since it happened. A lot of heated exchanges over the whole topic. Lots of different feelings about it. I've talked about mine. Everybody's kind of talked about their feelings. That's what we do on social media, right? We talk about our feelings about every single subject and topic. So I don't know who doesn't know about this, but two high school kids at a track meet in Texas. Words fly in the bleachers. One pulls out a utility knife from his backpack. And the next thing you know, a 17-year-old Austin Metcalf is gone, leaves behind a devastated family, a twin brother who held him in his arms as he was dying. So, talk about what real trauma looks like, not my flippant use of the word. That is actual trauma and devastation. So Carmelo Anthony, he's 19 now. The trial just concluded. It was a very brief, very quick trial. For a lot of people will say for obvious reasons. It's pretty cut and dry. It really is. He is 19 now. He's convicted of murder this week after a quick jury deliberation and sentenced to 35 years. So his self-defense claim, which has been the claim all along, fell through obviously very, very quickly. The facts, showed otherwise, which included witnesses and evidence that it all painted a very different picture than, what he claimed. We see these stories. They are just piling up all around us, incidents like this. And of course, it hits differently when it's, when it's kids, when it's young people, because you think automatically, like this is a life, a future completely destroyed, snuffed out completely. And, most importantly, more than anything in the world right now, I want to say, may God comfort and give some type of peace to the Metcalf family, because we spent a lot of time focusing on the accused and what they're doing and their life and their, all the deliberations and armchair quarterbacks and all of those things. A lot of attention is spent on the accused, and very little, oftentimes, attention is given to the actual victim and the survivors and the people who are living with the aftermath. So, and that's why I really want to take an important moment and acknowledge this family and this unfathomable loss. It's just a devastating, devastating thing. And that gets lost in all of the, sit behind your screens and discuss it like you are part of this, like what's going on. And it's just so detached, isn't it? It's sad how detached emotionally we get from other people's lives, other people's pain and suffering and injury. So yes, I hope we all take a moment and pray for that family and pray for their healing, for them to be able to move forward in this and make good things come from this horrific tragedy. So anyhow, we also need to talk about the broader implications of this story. So there's the personal aspect of it, the acknowledgement and reality that these people are going through. But I think it's also important to talk about that broader impact, right? Like, what does this mean for society? What does this mean? What does this say about us as people, as humanity, as humans? Psychologically, right? It ties into that slow erosion of impulse control, discourse, discussion, argument, verbal arguments, disagreements, all of that. Young men especially are swimming in a culture that basically glorifies confrontation over character, over that discourse and discussion that we were just talking about. Where my truth, I hate that phrase. Do you hate that phrase? My truth. But anyhow, that's their term, right? Overrules consequences, like that matters more in their mind. And we could talk about the root causes of all of that, the family breakdown, absent fathers, or fathers failing to model strength through restraint, right? Schools that are more worried about feelings and skin color and sexual identity than they are about formation and also being in a tech-driven world where we are losing that human connection because we're doing everything through a screen. We're protected by a screen. You could be a bully. You can say anything you want without any repercussions because you're safe behind a screen. You don't have to look somebody in the eye. You don't have to see their hurt or their pain or their discomfort. So they're not real, right? We can talk about I talk about it all the time. We could talk about the media, they're rolling it. Politicians, they're rolling it. You know what? Speaking of, let's, with direct regard to this conversation, to this topic, let's see what Jasmine Crockett had to inflammatory, incorrectly, insanely say about this.
5 years for a kid who had decided to go under a tent that was not his team's tent as it was raining, and simply didn't want to be put out in the rain by some random kid that he didn't know who was larger than him. Listen, a lot of people don't know what it is to live as a Black person in this country, but just like you can give the benefit of the doubt to so many police officers when they go out and they shoot some Black unarmed person, even though they are trained, the fact that there was little to no mercy seen or humanity seen when this Black boy said that I was scared.
This is in every possible way one of the, and there's been a few, wildest, stupidest, ignorant takes I have seen on this topic. Are you kidding me right now? The comparisons are absurd. The positioning is absurd. She is justifying the actions of Carmelo Anthony, who chose to, rather than walk away. And by the way, witnesses said Austin Metcalf said, his exact quote was, "I don't want to fight with you." Those were his exact words. Okay. So she's disregarding actual facts of this case, completely ignoring it. But to justify his stabbing of another human being over a disagreement, over, fine, if you want to say territory, which I don't really think that was the case at all, by the way, to justify murder by saying it was not fair that they didn't let him under the tent, or that he was scared, or all of the nonsense that she just said that is so unbelievable that I would almost want to, I would rather believe that that was AI, that whole statement, than to believe an actual person would make such a stupid statement. But that's where we are. Like, that is where we are. That type of media positioning by politicians in this specific case is a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. That was inflammatory. That was categorically false. Her comparisons were absurd. But you have a wide faction of people who are listening to this and nodding their head and agreeing with this 100% and saying that is accurate and okay. It's okay. The message there was, it's okay to murder someone when they don't let you have your way. It's okay to murder someone when they disagree with you. That is the messaging. That is what they're saying. And it is, absolutely horrific. So we can talk about all of the aspects that make this case, unfortunately, so typical now, so commonplace now. And all of the things that we're talking about are accurate. The media needs to have accountability. Parents, schools, society, we need more accountability for our own personal actions. We need to demand it. And this is a great example of that. Now, there are people that will say 35 years isn't enough. You should get life. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. What I would like to see, what I would pray for Carmelo Anthony would be for him to somehow, miraculously get incredible guidance. Clearly the guidance that he lacked in his life, that somebody in a positive way takes him under their wing and, shows them God, introduces him to God, because the amount of lack of empathy and humanity that he exhibited with that act is, appalling and tragic and sad. So I don't necessarily, punishment, his jail term, prison term, punishment is required. That is within the scope of our laws, the action and accountability and consequence of actions. That was met. That was met here. Maybe not long enough in some people's lives. I'm sure certainly not in his family's, and who could blame them for wanting worse, wanting more. Their son lost his life. Technically, he should lose his, whether full life in prison or otherwise. So, yeah, the question becomes here, like, we can talk about it all day, right? All day long. We can go down the entire list, like we said, the entire list of all of the root causes of how we get here. But the question really becomes that we're all really quick to point out the problems, aren't we? We're really quick to point out problems. That is the easiest thing to do. We can point them out all day. We can see them like as if they're a neon sign. We know what they are. But who can offer real actionable solutions? Like, are we doomed to just keep watching like this cultural rot infect all avenues and aspects of life? How do we change it? How do we fix it? How do we take those actionable steps? And yes, we can. There's the broad answer, right? Bring back the nuclear family, have more accountability. All of this is so easy to say, right? How do we do it? How do we put it into action? How do we demand it? I don't know. Maybe in the comment section. If you do, I need you to come in and solve all the world's problems. Can you do that in one? I don't even know how many words or characters you're allowed in a comment. I'm sure there is a limitation, but make it multiple comments if you'd like, because if you have the answer, if you can fix this awful societal problem that we are living in right now, my goodness, you get the golden ticket, right? Who knows that reference? You know that reference? All right, let's move on to the California count chaos. Mail-in miracles or predictable patterns. Well, obviously, we're all going to say it's a pretty predictable pattern. We've seen this time and again. We are sick and tired of it. We're disgusted with all of it at this point. A little clarity here for anybody listening in. California primaries early lead for some Republicans evaporate as late mail-in ballots roll in. Yep, we've seen this play before. We have, of course, the unexpected cries of rigged that are echoing, because how could they not? Right now, we're talking, of course, about Ellie mayoral run. Spencer Pratt, he was up. He was, pretty much close to guaranteed to being the front runner there up against Bass. And then what happened? Democrat surges. Trump and allies flagged it. Of course they did. Of course we all did. And skeptics called it standard procedure in a state where most vote absentee. So what do we do? What's the answer here? Obviously, this kind of stuff wears completely on our trust. Like, our trust in the system, in government, in elections is completely 100% eroded. It's gone. It's done. And this is exactly why, of course, the Trump administration is pushing for, all of the measures that they have been consistently pushing for, rightly so. The solution, as usual, is actually pretty simple. It's the one that President Trump has been pushing for all along. What is it? Verifiable reform, right? Same day ID voting, where practical, clean chain of custody for mail, right? Real time transparency, kind of no duh, right? We're not asking for perfection. I think that's impossible, right? I mean, we would love a perfect system, but we've got to be doing better. The American people obviously deserve better. Like, why is this so complicated? It's a rhetorical question. We all know why it's so complicated. So anyhow, I thought it would be fun to just share a little video of just having a little fun. Because listen, you know my deal. You know how I am. My feeling is, if we can't find something to laugh about here, if we can't joke about it a little bit and just lighten up for a minute and, kind of de-escalate that anger and contempt and disgust and rage. Not that it goes away by any means, but if we can just kind of give a little chuckle with it, it makes it all a little bit more bearable. So I put out this video and I'll share it with you guys here.
That's right, folks. The Super Bowl ended on Sunday, and we should have the results for you sometime next Thursday. Welcome back to E, your source for fashion and entertainment news as it breaks. And today we're talking about the Oscars. Still, yes, it has been 3 weeks since the Oscars. The Academy is still counting. We should know soon. Mrs. Smith, your husband is out of surgery. Thank you, doctor. Is he all right? Is he going to live? We should know in approximately 3 weeks. What?
Yeah. So that was obviously, if you couldn't read the caption because you're listening, I created a little skit just to kind of make fun of the way California counts because, we mentioned right at the top of this segment that we would love one day elections, other states can do. States and countries, by the way, with way larger populations manage to somehow get their counts in before the night is over. But unless you're in California, where it takes maybe a year or so, who knows, before we actually find out anything. So yeah, obviously these are all things that need to be fixed and changed. Staying in the same lane here, let's just scoot on over to Maine across the country. Their GOP Steady Hand Collins is unopposed, and the Dems, pick from the bottom of the barrel with Graham Plattner. Now, this is wild, guys. This feels like some serious Alice in Wonderland stuff here because it is really, really hard to wrap the brain around this. So you've got Susan Collins over in Maine. She is pretty much cruising, I guess, unopposed on the GOP side. But meanwhile, they over on the Dems side, they're putting it all behind. All their support is going behind their guy, Plattner. I still can't believe this guy was like their bestest. When I posted about this, just, I don't know, a couple days ago, I guess, I got the predictable, have you met Trump? Have you seen Trump comments? I knew they were coming. I even put it in the caption that, that they were going to come in with exactly that, because that is the cliche line. Like, let's deflect from the awfulness of this guy. By the way, let me share with you the awfulness of this guy. The Democrats voted for a guy who had a Nazi tattoo. He's like since covered it up with something else. He lied about this Nazi tattoo, and he said he didn't know that's what it was, but he's also heard or read or seen also afterwards bragging about it. He said that he would rape people who broke into his home to show them his dominance. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. He also sexted with women while he was married. He bragged about drawing male parts in porta potties. He also praised Islamic terrorists, and he has said that he is a communist. And he also joined an app known to be used by predators to contact minors. And the left said, that's our guy. That's our guy. We want him. Yeah. So anyhow, I, of course, made that post, that video talking about that. And like I said, the predictable comments came up. And of course, I had a video response to that. So I'm just going to share it rather than just repeating myself. I'm just going to share what I already said. Here it is.
And was posted multiple times. Variations of this question was posted multiple times underneath my post about Graham Plattner. Yeah. So here's the thing. First off, yeah, I have met him. I actually spent New Year's Eve week at Mar-a-Lago. It was a great time. He was lovely. He was gracious. He was funny. He was kind. And yeah, so to answer the question, yes, I have. But thank you for asking. I'm pretty sure you guys are being sarcastic, right? So let's talk about what you're really saying here. You're suggesting that I can't say anything about Graham Plattner because you believe these very same charges or guilt by President Trump, right? Here's the thing. The last time that I checked, pointing at him or someone else doesn't magically make Graham Plattner or whoever the latest Democrat nominee is. It doesn't make him a good choice, right? You know that. We're allowed to call out bad actors on both sides without the whataboutism dodge. So maybe you can try and stay on topic, which is this particular pick, and tell me, what is your actual defense of this pick? Like, what makes this guy a good choice? Let's see if you can leave out everyone else and just focus on the person we're talking about right here. Can you do it?
Yeah. So my point being, if your only defense of someone indefensible is to point the finger at the other guy, at somebody else, without giving any real, logical, practical, citable insights as to why you want this guy, why do you want this candidate, what do they bring to the table that makes you say, yeah, that's why. Even though, like, if you want to justify, I'm not saying anything one way or the other, right, wrong, or indifferent. But if you want to justify your pick, you should be able to do it with citing the credible reasons why they're a good pick. Because I actually can say to you and that somebody who, like the biggest character flaw you can say about most presidents that we've had, maybe for all I know, I have no idea, but quite a few of them, the biggest critique people will often say, we'll talk about, well, particularly with Trump, because, they only want to focus on him. So we'll just use him as the example. People want to focus on his infidelity and his manner of speaking, the things that he has said, or the way he has said certain things. A lot of the things that people accuse him of are actually categorically false and misinterpreted, deliberately misinterpreted, all of those things. But they'll point out his character failings, his morality failings, and all of those things. I will actually tell you that my personal opinion is I don't think those types of things make or break you as a viable, as a good leader. I don't think those are things. Morality. Yeah, certainly you would like the most moral, high standard person you could possibly get. Yes, that is the dream. That's the ideal. Is that reality? Obviously not. History, time and again, has shown us that is not the reality. That oftentimes people who make moral choices, unfavorable moral choices in their personal life, are still actually really great leaders. So that is not it's not the winning argument, and it's not the killer of a good candidate. Having said that, we do have, there's got to be some boundaries here, right? Like, maybe somebody will say I'm splitting hairs. You can say that. I don't agree with you, but you can say that. You have somebody who makes choices with consenting adults, right? They are not the best choices. They are not the most moral choices. They're certainly not the most godly choices. But they are making choices with other consenting adults in their personal, private life. Okay, I mean, it is what it is. That is one side of an issue where I can say, not cool by any means, but it is what it is. And then you have somebody who has a Nazi tattoo, who has said a lot of things. I don't want to keep repeating the things because it's just really gross. There does come a point where you do have to draw a hard line, right? I mean, no, I think that I feel like there is. So the comparisons are a little bit silly and absurd, but more significantly, can you, like I said at the end of that little clip there, can you defend your choice without deflecting and pointing at somebody else's mistakes or choices or behaviors? Like, can you defend the person you're picking by pointing out their good qualities, their assets, their, winning whatever? They're winning whatever. Can you do it? Most of the time, no. You saw that with Kamala Harris in countless on the street interviews, right? Where people would say, well, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? And they would say, because she's not Trump, or because she's a woman. And then the follow-up question would be, well, what has she done in her time as vice president or in her time as governor? What has she done that makes you believe she would make a good president? And then it's like crickets. They don't have an answer. That's what we see over and over and over again. You have no defense of your candidate other than to say he's not him or he's not her, or he's not whoever. That's not a defense, guys. That's not a winning argument. You lose automatically when you can't defend your choice with concrete evidence and tangible accomplishments, right? So, and by the way, yes, before somebody will ask in the comments, well, what can you say about Trump that he's done good? Dude, I've made that video countless times, variations of that video where I have listed his accomplishments and the things that he has done as president, both terms. So it's out there. I'm not going to keep repeating the same things over and over again because it's obnoxious and it's boring for me and boring for anyone who's already heard it. So if you haven't heard it, feel free to dig through my videos and find it. Unfortunately, or fortunately, there are a lot of videos to go through, but they are there. Many, many times I have touted Trump's actual accomplishments and things that he has done that are great. So there's that. All right, so let's move on. I'm done with that. Done with it. Oh, well, speaking of Trump, I guess I'm not done with it. I guess I'm still talking. So President Trump sat down with Meet the Press. He was pressed hard on California claims and past elections, and he ended up walking off the interview and called Meet the Press crooked, right? So so here's the thing, and I've seen both sides of this, and I will say, so somebody has often, or people often say, that I don't call out, or we as conservatives or Republicans don't call out anything that Trump says. Well, that's BS. We actually have no problem. You know what? I won't speak for anybody else. I know that other people do regularly. But I will speak for myself and say I have plenty of times stated the things that I don't love about Trump or the way that he does certain things. I have no problem calling out things that I don't like or disagree with or prefer he doesn't do many times. Again, feel free to scroll through the videos, knock yourself out. But the flip side of that here is that I understand, most of us understand his frustration and contempt and impatience and intolerance of legacy media and their tactics and their nonsense. Like, he repeatedly gives these people a chance. Should he? Part of me says no, he should not. But I also give him credit for doing it, for sitting down with these people. I mean, he has sat down for many, many, many lengthy interviews and press conferences with people who just insist on using him as a battering. I don't even know the word I'm thinking of, but you know what I mean. Just beating on him nonstop with completely unfair, biased questions and comments and insults and all those things. So, as a human being, there is a point where you just kind of say, enough, I'm done with you. I gave you a chance. I'm trying to sit down with you. I'm trying to talk to you here. And you are just coming from this completely biased, aggressive, hostile tone and attitude and questions that have, oftentimes nothing to do with what we're actually sitting down for. But anyhow, so stating the obvious, legacy media has a serious trust deficit for a reason. They've got selective gotchas, their narrative protection of whatever things. Think back to the whole Biden cognitivity. His cognitive abilities lie that they push nonstop. And now you have his own wife coming out and saying, well, I thought he was having a stroke during that debate. So give me a break. The auto pen fiasco, all of the things done in the dark have now come to light. Not all of them, but many of them have come to light. So it's no wonder that we have, and that President Trump has this absolute contempt and disgust for the legacy media. Do I wish that he didn't walk out? Yeah, I actually do. I wish that he didn't walk out. I wish that he stayed, because then and the only reason he was right to walk out, if this makes any sense to you, I don't know. He was right to walk out, but I still wish he didn't, only because of the follow-up optics, and it just gives them more fuel, more, I don't know, banter and things to say and mock and make fun of. Do I think he cares that much about it? Probably not. Probably just for a minute, like we all do with negativity and hostile people and comments. We care for under a minute and then we've already moved on. But, the truth is we all lose it when the media and our political leaders get into it like this. Like we all lose technically. Okay. It does not help anyone. And this is I'm directing this. I'm not singling out just Trump or just the media. I'm actually singling out the whole pattern, this whole system of how these things are being done. This nasty, nasty back and forth that goes on. It needs to stop. The press needs to show more respect, period. I don't care that you don't like the president. You respect the office. You respect the presidency. You respect decorum. You respect the fact that this is the United States. We should be held and holding ourselves to a higher standard of behavior and decorum. And it starts right at the top. Yes, I do mean President Trump too. It starts right at the top and it goes all the way across and then it trickles down. Everyone should be holding themselves in higher standards, right? Simple as that. I mean, the reality is that we, the people, just want straight answers. We want civility and respect and accountability and all of those things for everyone, That is the true middle America, right? And I'm not talking about a financial demographic. I'm talking about a mentality demographic. That is what we are all just starving for. Just personal accountability, government accountability, media accountability, personal accountability. These are all the things that we collectively are just starving for. So, from my mouth to God's ears to all of the people that need to hear that, I don't know. Last topic, guys. Last topic. This is not one that Clay put in here. This is one that I added in because of a post I shared that got some people, unsurprisingly, a little riled up. They didn't like it, mostly because they failed to, or they refused to read my statement that accompanied it. They assumed that I was bashing mothers who work outside of the home. Wrongly, by the way. I was actually not bashing them even remotely. I wouldn't. They also attacked stay-at-home moms, which I was one of those throughout my kids' lives. They had like a lot of nasty things to say about that. And then, of course, there were some stay-at-home moms, unsurprisingly, who retaliated back with their own responses. So, needless to say, it became a little bit of a verbal brawl in the comments section, which was not actually my goal, believe it or not at all. It was just a overarching view of what has happened, how this happened, how feminism kind of warped and just turned everything in a really unbeneficial way to society. So I think that's feminine. I think that feminism started with real inequities, right? It started with the right to vote. It started with basic rights, but that has all morphed into something that treats motherhood, marriage, and those complementary roles between men and women, husbands and wives, as oppression rather than design. Right? The statistics bear this out. You have delayed marriage, lower birth rates, higher divorce, kids in fractured homes, psychological impacts that run very deep, things like the loneliness epidemic. On the radio show that I did a segment on teenage boys now creating AI girlfriends. We are in a loneliness epidemic. We are more connected than ever, and we are more lonely than ever. And that is just simply one proof of that, which is just wild. But for women and men and boys without steady fathers influencing them, that are struggling with identity and discipline, and you have girls chasing metrics over meaning, and the root causes are, again, we go back to our very first topic. There are some pretty universal root causes of this. We talked about the fatherless homes. We talked about the, parents, both parents working outside of the home, nobody around to physically, literally, emotionally raise these kids, because people are exhausted at the end of the day, and kids are enrolled in 500 different things. So by the time they get home, it's basically time to throw some food at your face and go to bed. And that's it. So the connection, and then of course the weekends are filled up with, sports and activities and things that must get done and homework and all of these things. And all of these things cause the family unit to grow further and further apart. So that connection between husbands and wives, between parents and children, fathers and sons, fathers and daughters, mothers and sons, mothers and daughters, all of these connections that were done over the dinner table, over, time spent together as a family, over the weekend. All of this time is being eaten up by things, by stuff, by other things filling it. And then of course you have, I think one of the, most tragic things of that, besides feminism and women, being compelled to be in the workforce, is the kids being in school, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. The psychological impact of all of this, I don't know how you can deny this. Look at the mental health crisis in our country. I'm not even talking about other countries. In our country, look at the mental health crisis. We have chronic anxiety, chronic depression, mental health disorders, all the way down to the simple disconnect between humans today. All of this stuff, guys, all of this stuff is by design. Okay. And maybe you think I'm putting on a tinfoil hat here. I'm actually not. This is pretty well documented or documentable just by going back through history. If you go back to these very specific moments in time where these things shifted and changed, you can make the correlation between all of that and where we are now. And, and I know the left argues constantly. It was in that comment section. The left will argue all the time that feminism empowered choice. Sure, it did. It gave us women, it gave us a choice that we didn't have. And we should have a choice. Of course, we should have a choice, which is, by the way, exactly what I said in my caption, which was ignored and disregarded. Surprise, surprise. Absolutely. I think it's great to have a choice. I would not be able to do what I'm doing right now, without having been afforded the opportunity to have choice. But somewhere along the line, that choice was, several things happened, guys. That choice was morphed into, there was a shift in choice to mockery. There was an addition, I guess I should say, of this mockery and disdain and condescension towards women who stayed home with their kids. Like, oh, is that all you want to do in life? Wow, that's sad. That's lame. And then that was bolstered and probably even created by those in power, because the government looked at this and said, listen, we can get two incomes out of one family. If the women are working and the men are working, that's more tax dollars. That's more all of the thing. And it's also meaning that children now have to be put in school for longer periods of time, which now gives government control over those children, influence. So now somebody else is essentially raising your kid 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you are losing out because obviously they have the stronger influence. What are you getting those kids for? You're getting them, after school, after all of the things are done, after their, 2.5 to 3 hours of homework is done. You have time, not all the time. You have time for dinner and bed, basically. That's it. That is the influence that you have. Time you have to influence your children's values and morals and beliefs and all of those things. You're going to tell me that this was not by design? You're either delusional or you're part of that system that is trying to, or that has successfully created that. And again, the amount of proof of this, you do not need to look further than on your phone screen, on your computer screen, walking around and seeing what society looks like right now. Family has been redefined by the left. All of this has been intentional. This was deliberate. And this was something that, unlike conservatives, that they, at one point, they kind of made these conclusions and they decided, well, you can't do this overnight. You can't just flip it on a dime. This is something that you have to play the long game at. This is going to take time. This was back, I don't know. I mean, back in probably like the 60s, maybe late 50s, early 60s. I don't know. But this is going back decades. And as you can see, their long game has borne the toxic fruit of their tree, basically. What do we do? I mean, you got to reject you got to reject the gender wars. You got to reject the ideology. You have to reject this erosion of the family unit. And you have to be, probably before all of that, you have to be, to counter their wokeism, you have to be awake. You have to see things for as they are and not as they want you to see it. That goes down to, and I've talked about this many times, the television shows, the broadcast streaming of, family sitcoms where the family dynamic is somehow it's always toxic. It's always grim and depressing and miserable. Even when they're doing it as comedy, the messaging is that, family life sucks. Parents are the worst. Husbands are dumb dolts that don't know how to do anything right in the house. And wives are bitter and angry and disappointed. And, pay attention to these things. Is that a reflection of real life, or is that a projection of what they want you to believe real life is? Is that what your real life looks like? Because if it is, you got to do the work, man. You got to do the work to make it better. And, most of all, those are really anger people because they don't like to hear this. But most of all, we need to get back to God. You need to get back to what God's will is for us and for our lives. Because I can guarantee you, it's a bold statement, right? I can guarantee you, your life will be dramatically, incomprehensibly better for it. So that's what I'm closing with today, guys. No, you know what? Actually, what I'm closing with is this. You ready for it? Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's it. That's all I got. I don't know if this was good, bad, indifferent, but it is what it is. All I know is that we will be back next week. I will have Clay right next to me on one side or the other here, and it'll be much better for me. At least it better be better for you too. It is. Trust me, it's better for you. It's way better than to just sit there listening or just looking at me ramble on and on. All right, guys, that's all I got. Take care. We will we'll see you next week. Bye.
The headlines will change by tomorrow, but the patterns won't. Thanks for spending this time with us. We'll be back to keep asking the harder questions and telling the quieter truths. Until then, stay grounded, be discerning, and we'll see you next time.